In a convent near Naples, an Italian noblewoman waited, heartbroken, alone, and frightened. By morning, she would be dead. This is her story. Many times in the collection, I find there is more to an object than meets the eye. Take this portrait of Porzia de Rossi, for example. When I asked, who was this woman? What was her story? I ended up discovering much more than expected. Porzia de Rossi was born into a large, noble family in Naples around 1511. Her father was Giovanni de Rossi, her mother, Lucrezia Gambacorta. There were at least 5 brothers and a sister. When she was still a child, Portia lost both parents, and she was placed under the guardianship of her elder brother. Her father had, however, left provisions for a large dowry. In 1536, she married Bernardo Tasso, a court poet and secretary to Fernando Sanservino, Prince of Salerno. Her brother paid half the dowry with a promise to make payments on the remainder. The couple enjoyed a lavish, courtly life in the heart of Renaissance Italy. In 1537, a daughter, Cornelia, was born, and in 1544, a son, Torquato, joined the happy family. Portia and Bernardo had a true affection for one another. He wrote her love sonnets and lavished her with praise. Perhaps it was a true love match. But the good times weren't to last. The Spanish Inquisition was about to rear its ugly head. In mid-16th century Naples and surrounding areas, there was an atmosphere of open exchange of thoughts and ideas. It was largely due to the vast amounts of printing that was occurring in the area. Venice was a tolerant place where many faiths had gathered for religious refuge, and the idea of Protestantism was taking shape. In 1547, the Spanish viceroy, Pedro de Toledo, tried to institute the Spanish Inquisition. The backlash was immediate. Many who protested were landed nobles who feared the Inquisition would confiscate their land and property, because this time they weren't going after converted Jews, but everyday citizens. Offenses such as blasphemy, sexual misconduct, or not willing to observe fast days could get you called before the inquisitors. They sent a representative to the court of Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. That delegate was Bernardo's employer, the Prince of Salerno. Charles and the Prince never met, but Del Toledo momentarily backed down. Unfortunately, the prince became the face of the revolt and was exiled. He and anyone associated with him were also exiled, their land and their property confiscated. Bernardo was caught up in this situation, and he had to flee to France with the prince, leaving Portia and their 2 children alone in the city. Portia was able to return to her family home, where she requested the remainder of her dowry from her brother so she could reunite with Bernardo in France. Whether out of fear, spite, greed, or a lack of funds, her brother denied her request and kept doing so each time she pressed him. He kept her in total financial dependence. Her son, Torquato, was able to join his father sometime between 1550 and 1552. The next year, Cornelia was married and left. With the children gone, Portia entered the convent of Santa Maria in Naples, where another brother was the abbot. And it's here that Portia remained a virtual prisoner, heartbroken, alone, and frightened. And it was here, in the winter of 1556, Porzia de Rossi died, never seeing her beloved husband again. When Bernardo heard of his wife's death, he wept and lamented. She was young and of honest and graceful beauty, and so jealous of her honor that against all our natural instincts, she wished several times, after the unfortunate case of my exile, to be old and ugly. I cry the quality of death which, as far as I can conjecture, was violent or of excessive pain or poison, having died in 24 hours. Bernardo gives us the only insight into Portia's death. He uses words violent, excessive pain, poison, and having died in 24 hours. It certainly sounds like poison to me. Portia's sad life was not in vain. Both Bernardo and most notably her son Torquato became celebrated Renaissance poets. Bernardo Tasso is credited with 55 odes, and his major work was the 100 cantos epic poem A Medici, published in 1560. Bernardo would live until his 76th year, dying September 5th, 1569. By the time Tasso was 31, he had written two masterpieces, Rinaldo and Jerusalem Rising, an epic poem about the First Crusade. He was a celebrated poet, but he constantly battled with his mental health. In 1578, Torquato was placed in the Madhouse at St. Anna, where he remained until 1586. In 1594, when Pope Clement VIII invited him to Rome to receive the crown of laurels for his work, he traveled to Rome. But worn out, he died in April 1595 at the age of 51. Still today he is remembered with statues in Sorrento and a monument in Bergamo, as well as many streets named after him in Italian cities. This one simple picture in the collection led me to an incredible discovery of a notable 16th century Renaissance family who endured the Spanish Inquisition, exile, madness, and maybe murder.